Greetings, class. My name is Dr. Gregory Price. I'm the Associate Dean in the School of Applied Leadership, and I'm going to present you a video on the dissertation chapters 1 through 3. This is going to be a very quick overview, kind of intensive, fast-paced. So what I'll do in this overview slide is really tell you what you're about to see and what to expect. First thing is I'm going to review some expectations with you, and I'm going to talk about the transition from classwork to dissertation writing. And then I'm going to talk a bit about Chapter 1, the introduction, Chapter 2, the literature review, then Chapter 3, the methodology, and then some transitions ideas that I want you to include within each of those chapters. So let's go ahead and review the dissertation process, just in a very brief sort of way. I want to point out the areas called Research 694A, B, C, D, E, and F. Predominantly, I'm going to be focusing on the Research 694A, B, predominantly. This is really where you're looking to complete your prospectus and your proposal. Now, the proposal is the chapters 1, 2, and 3. There's another video with regard to the prospectus that you probably have already reviewed, but this one is really an intensive look on the proposal, chapters 1, 2, and 3. Notice that that is to be completed in 694B. So that's a goal based on this particular view of the process. Not everyone finishes or completes that goal, and some people actually complete the goal even earlier than that. It just really is a matter of where you're at. But I can tell you that most people struggle with the proposal stage. So I want you to be ready and I want you to be aware. This slide talks about student responsibilities, and what I would like for you to do is go ahead, stop the video, and just have this on your screen so that you could read through it, because I don't want to read it to you. It's simply stated here. So I want you to kind of take a look at this and make sure that you So continuing on with expectations, it says that, the slide is very clear. Be in constant communication with your chair. Set up goals, set up a time when you're going to talk to your chair. Be sure that you meet those weekly assigned times. That could be a phone call, a Skype messaging sort of an arrangement, or an email. It's really important that, that this occurs. So as you are going through the process of writing chapters 1, 2, and 3, you're going to be receiving much in the way of feedback. And so expect a lot of it, and be prepared to make the changes in your document, addressing all of that feedback. And don't just gloss over it. Don't think that if there's a piece of feedback in one area that that doesn't mean that it shouldn't be addressed all through the document. You do need to address it throughout the document. So if there is one section where something is said, be sure that that is understood, that feedback is addressed throughout your document. So be sure that you understand APA, understand that you're comfortable with it. Make sure that you understand you review the checklists that are inside your handbook. That too is very important as you are starting to finalize the elements of your chapter. So as you transition from coursework into the dissertation phase, there is a stark difference between the two. It's your instructors were once instructors. They were actually doing the teaching for you, and you expected them to kind of guide the way. When you get into the dissertation, your teacher actually becomes more of a coach. And so this is important as well to understand. All of the timelines, everything that moves in the courses that you take in the dissertation sequence is up to you. That's why it's important to set up goals with your chair to reach those goals that you set out for each quarter, and make them achievable. And be sure to communicate weekly to your chair, if not more often, where your bottlenecks are, to see if you may be going down a rabbit hole that is not worth going down. There's a lot of different things that can happen during the dissertation phase. Okay, now I'm starting to sound a little bit like a broken record, and this is where what I mean by that is the dissertation sequence is really set up so that you can complete pieces of the dissertation within each quarter. But this requires you to set goals and to set them with your chair. Make them attainable and reachable. Try to complete your prospectus in Research A, 694A. This allows you to begin writing the proposal, which is chapters 1, 2, and 3, and that's what this is all about, this presentation. So if your goal in a certain course in the sequence is not met, you will fail that course. And fail is not, it's not a real important sort of concept. It just means you take it again. But instead of taking like Research 694B or something like that again, you actually move into Research 99, and you just improve the grade that you had in B. That's all it is. It's a pass and a fail sort of thing. So so that's the importance of reaching your goals each quarter. Okay, now we are starting to write our chapter one. Now, chapter one is you want to practice, continue to practice, I should say, clarity, simplicity, using correct punctuation, grammar, and be very aligned with your prospectus that you just completed. The Chapter one is really an outline for your entire dissertation, so it kind of gives you a roadmap for where you're headed all the way through in all of the rest of the chapters. So when the work that you have done or will do in the prospectus really does make an excellent outline for chapter one, but it is not the final content. It is not something that you can just copy and paste into the chapter and think that it'll work. You actually use the content, but you rework it, adjust it, make it flow, and so that it becomes a chapter in and of itself, chapter one. Some additional tips for you in chapter one, the introduction chapter. As you write chapter one, be sure that you're using future tense. You're actually going to be doing things, and you will be doing research, and you're going to be conducting, the analysis on the research that you're doing. So these are the things. These are very important for you to consider. So be sure to write in the future, present future tense. And it's also really critical that as you are beginning to introduce your authors, that you're writing in context. You're putting in reasons as to why this particular author is important for your particular study. So you add context. Now that eliminates the use of author strings. And so kind of keep that in mind. Limit the use of author strings, add more context by introducing the authors and why they're important for you, for your study, and how they are important with what it is that you're trying to accomplish with the things that you're trying to communicate. So finally, for chapter one, the introduction chapter, here's a list of the sections that you're going to be including inside chapter one. There's going to be an abstract, an introduction, study background foundation, problem statement, all the way down to the summary. Now, be sure to not, just like you've done in all your papers, don't write your abstract until you're done writing your proposal. Okay, so let's look at chapter two, the literature review. Now notice the first bullet point. It says written in past tense. Now that will be true because the literature review is all about the literature that you are reviewing. And all the literature that you have reviewed is something that was done previously by other authors, so you would want to write that chapter in the past tense. Continue to include context for the references that are new that you introduce in chapter two, and be sure that it's clear with how you're making their introduction useful to the content that you're writing in chapter two. This will limit your use of author strings. And as you have finalized chapter two, be sure to look at the proposal checklist in your student handbook to ensure that you've concluded, or you have included, I should say, all of the different boxes that are listed in that particular checklist. The second slide to chapter two really discusses what you include in the literature review. And even though there's only 3 items here, the introduction, the body, and the summary, let me tell you, it becomes a very large section. And, anywhere between 25 to 40 pages is probably a good size literature review. An average length is going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of 30, 35 pages. Okay, so for Chapter 3, the methodology chapter, we are going to be using the future tense again in our writing. And this is because as a methodology chapter, it's, you haven't yet done the research. So it's where you're going to be doing the research and you will be conducting the interviews and that kind of thing. So always use future tense in Chapter 3 for the proposal. Also, you're going to be introducing some new authors. So be sure to include the context for these new authors, and this really helps the reader to understand why you're using a specific author in your methodology chapter, and it really, by using context, it really cleans up the ideas that you're trying to present and where you're headed with your research. So it really builds the case for you. Once you're finished with the chapter, you're going to use this proposal checklist again. And be sure that all of the boxes are checked prior to you submitting your Chapter 3 to your chair. So to continue our Chapter 3 methodology, these will be most all of the sections that you're going to be including in that particular chapter. The introduction, the research method and design, the instruments that you'll use, who your participants are, how you're going to be analyzing your data, and all the way down to summary. Now, this isn't all of them, but this is really the basis of what you're going to be including inside Chapter 3. Okay, here we are at the dissertation proposal completion point. You have fully completed all 3 chapters: the introduction, the literature review, and the methodology. Once you have gone through this process where the chair, the dissertation director, and the committee members have all approved what it is you've done, The research questions and the problem statement cannot be changed without going through this process again. So what you've come up with is really the recipe for where you're headed. And hopefully that it's completely aligned at this point with dissertation director approving it. Everything is going to be tight and solid, and you're going to be on your way to conducting your research. So as the final slide in this presentation, just a few summary items. Chapters 1 and 3 are written in future tense. Chapter 2 is written in past tense. And I'm going to say with exceptions, and you'll see those as you write those. All of your writing is going to be clear and precise. There's going to be transitions that's going to be required from chapter to chapter. So you're going to be restating some things, even though you're going to be using some different words to express those ideas. You're also going to be creating bridges and transitions between sections within each chapter. So there will be some repetitiveness, but it will be very clear to the reader. Because sometimes what happens is readers don't read from chapters 1, 2, 3. They just dig into a specific chapter, like chapter 3, for example, or they just go right into chapter 2 and read that. So that's why you have these repetitive ideas, and the transitions are huge along with those bridges. Okay, so thank you very much for your for viewing this presentation. Hopefully it kind of came across as being a little quick, a little intensive, and gave you the right points that you need to know with regard to the proposal. Thank you.